My husband keeps coming to the kitchen window every night at roughly 1:30. At first, I didn't know what it was exactly standing outside. It seemed like a glorified glob of glue that had different features childishly pushed in. There were the eyes of a swine, the forelegs of a horse with multiple hooves on each stump, resulting in 12 hooves, and the snout of a very disfigured sheep. It stumbled up, the meaty glop connecting between the aforementioned appendages wiggling and bouncing with each movement. At the time I found it ghastly but had to fight expressing it outright. The first thing you're taught before addition, verbs, or any sport is to never acknowledge the things in Bramblebush. So I finished the washing up, closed the curtains to the kitchen window, and whisked away upstairs to return to bed with my husband. There was nothing there in the morning, no trace or evidence I could point my husband towards without directly acknowledging it, so I kept my head down. It was the 7th time when I noticed something different. To be honest, there was something different each time, a different animal part, or the sludge a different shade, or the pace at which it went was inconsistent. But this time, on the 7th night from when it started, I was becoming really concerned. It was bipedal for once, its body still sliding and jiggling while the head tried staying afloat. It appeared similar to one of those boats trapped in a water-filled box that stays upright no matter how much it's shaken. I remember Clara having brought one of them home last summer while visiting Fondley and almost wanted to bring it out to subtly mock this thing that had been bothering me. Still, no matter how weird it was, I could not comment on it, although its inaction made it very tempting. It hadn't responded to my ignoring. It hadn't responded to the way my breathing would increase upon its arrival or the slight shake to my hands. It didn't seem to mind too much the subtle ways I acknowledged it, so it made it all the more tempting to actually do it. Like clockwork, every morning I would check outside the window and notice no hoof prints, no remnants of meat or speckles of slime. Every morning, I'd return back inside, prepare breakfast, serve breakfast, and clean up after breakfast. Every morning, I'd kiss my husband goodbye as he went out to work. Every morning I would prepare for the day ahead and drop any of my baked goods or leftovers off at my neighbors' houses. It was late in the day when this drop-off occurred. After visiting Clara and gifting her a rhubarb pie I had grown from our farm, she had brought me in to offer some afternoon tea, and then I noticed it. A quiet exhaustion in her eyes as they seemed to wonder constantly. "Have you been seeing it too?" I had asked in a hushed whisper, despite Clara's wife Sophie being out the house. I didn't want to risk anyone listening. Clara had always let me bend the rules of Bramblebush a bit. "See what?" Her eyes slid back over to mine in confusion. The thing," I remember pathetically stuttering, always nervous to break the norm but still doing it anyway. "I don't know what it is, but it's outside my window every night and dash," to which a soft hand untouched by the hardship of farm labor clasped my face. "Do not," Clara had begun while leveling me with a look that could boil Moonlight Lake in an instant. "You must not comment on it. You must not acknowledge it, no matter how tempting. But it's changing dash. Not another word from you, Annabelle, or I'm telling Sophie." "Not Sophie," I had complained childishly. Despite Sophie being a truly fantastical woman, she had a firm grip and would happily drag me by the ear back to Oakley Farm if she thought I was corrupting her wife. "Fine, but if I go randomly missing," I conceded, "you're being the head of the search party." "Fine, but you won't, because you will not do anything to acknowledge the folk of the forest." The conversation had changed after that, recounting how our days had been and discussing how Angus had been caught running down Stonebow Lane barely clothed again. When I left, any remaining tension had gone too. I kept my head down for a few more nights, bided my time, and carried on with my duties. Although my patience was wearing thin, especially after noticing the gingham shirt stretched over its large layered stomach. That shirt went missing last Wednesday after being hung outside to dry. That shirt had been hung in the middle of the line, not close enough to the woods to quickly snag, but not by the house that it was taken during a visit. That shirt was my husband's favorite shirt, and I couldn't help but glaring at the wearer. We had bought that together on our third date, and this thing had the gall to wear it. With the confidence of a young man getting drunk for the first time, it lifted the top lip of the dog's snout it called a mouth in what seemed to be a smile, and, using a hand where the fingers were different bird wings and the connectors were that sickly blue slop, tried to knock on the window. It couldn't get the pressure right. The wings only dragged wetly across the glass with a sickening slap. It pulled back, its singular goat eye began blinking, or attempting to as it bounced into its head and back out as if it was a frog. It paused and tried again after the only reaction it could garner out of me was glaring. Leaving the pot filled with the remnants of our tomato soup to soak, I pulled the windows shut slowly and deliberately while maintaining eye contact. I wasn't directly acknowledging it. Nothing hurt from a little looking, but it certainly felt great as its snout began to melt into an overdramatic sculpture of a frown. There was a ruckus around the outside while I continued on with my night routine. I bundled up the clothes from the washing machine into neat little piles and took them to the dressing room to organize tomorrow. I gathered any fallen blankets from the sofa or towels from the bathroom and hung them back to their original spot. And lastly, I checked that every door and window was firmly locked shut. It was weird. Our laundry room window that tilted inwards and was too small to be anything other than ventilation was open, and, upon kneeling on a stool to get closer, I heard a heavy, rhythmic noise outside. It was a mix between a dog panting in summer, a cricket frantically calling for a mate, and a snorting of a very exhausted cow. It still had a very melodical tint and was somehow going up and down in a familiar tune. I remembered my hand freezing in combination with the blood rushing in my ears. There was a large shadow on the window cast from the soft amber glow of the street lamps outside. Its hulking mass was elongating. Slowly a pillar raised from the shadow towards the window. When it was nearing the top, a peak of luminescent blue and wings visible, did I leap forwards. I clambered to stand on the stool using both hands to throw my weight onto the window. It slammed shut, cutting off the tip that was peeking through and falling onto the washing machine. There was a soft scratching outside, but I couldn't take my eyes off the mess below me. It was wiggling when I left it that night and when I came back in the morning. Thankfully, a pair of kitchen gloves and tongs helped me release it back outside. Last night was the 18th night it had visited me. It now wears my husband's face, his clothes, and an attempt at his smile, but it cannot mimic the facial expressions. It knocked on the window, the skin loose and flailing as if cloth. It was gurgling, a sickly sound that resembled someone swishing mouthwash, and began calling out, "Bumblebee?" while drawing out the vowels to a disgusting degree. Like usual, I sent it a harsh glare but couldn't help the shiver racking my body at hearing the perfect mimicry. I wiped down my mother's favorite ceramic bowl. It had cute painted pumpkins on despite her using it year-round, and she had gifted it to me upon buying my first house. Don ignore me, and B. It tried again, its words slurring and unintelligible apart from the nickname it likely had been practicing. I knew what it was trying to do. It was mimicking how after finishing work my husband would come home, call out "Bumblebee" in his lovely deep voice, and I'd run into his arms for a hug. We'd have food, talk in the living room, and sometimes sit in the conservatory with the windows open until dark. Just how long had it been watching us? "Ane bien, Bumblebee, come." It commanded. With each movement its lips slapped and swung off its chin. It was as if it didn't need any lips to form sounds. As usual, trying to tune it out was the best course of action. Then moving on to my favorite mug that Clara had gifted me during my birthday last year. She had painted the moons and stars herself. Clara was always like that, a truly wonderful woman that always tried to learn new hobbies to improve her gift giving. "Bumblebee, I'm home," it said, smiling in an almost picture-perfect way of our wedding photo that was nailed behind me to the wall. I could feel my resolve cracking. 18 nights of dealing with this thing, this hunking, writhing mess of nature and rejects. this insult to God and all of his creations as it wept and whined at my window for over a fortnight. "You are not my husband," I said quietly, placing the mug down. My hands were shaking as I looked under the counter. Please and buy." My hands clasped around the object and lifted it just below the wash basin and out of its view. For once, I was very thankful my husband had applied for the license last year. I can hear my husband snoring behind me, even muttering little words in his sleep. I point the farmer's shotgun towards it. I'm not quite positive on the make or model, but I've seen from it being used on pigeons that it can do what I need it to. "You are not my husband," I repeated, removing the safety clip and cocking it. Its lips really curl, as if a carpet being rolled up as it layers upon itself and shows, revealing 5 thick teeth. The eyes widen and the eyeballs almost begin to dance as they slightly pop in and out. Shortly after, it returns back towards the forest. Today it is the 26th of July, 2025, and I'm sitting in Bramblebush's library. I've been browsing the books to try and prepare for what I'm dealing with, but I doubt without proper library permissions they'd let me access something with all the rules. So, I've decided to create my own documentation until I can find something more substantial. I'm not sure what this thing is, but I don't want other people going into the unknown like me. There is also the possibility I was hoping that by describing this all to you, it could spark some ideas on what's going on. Listen, I can't discuss this with anyone else at the moment, and I really need advice. I will try and report back to you all on what happens, and wish me luck tonight.